Hello, I hope you're well. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to today's video, which is the first TBR that I have filmed in a hot minute, and it feels so good. We're talking all about the books that I'm going to be reading in the month of February. Now, I will caveat this by saying that I'm thinking more of this list as like a pile of possibilities, just because if you're an OG on this channel, you know that I am pretty strict when it comes to my TBRs. Like, those are the books I focus on for the month, and that's what I do. But I'm still easing my way out of a reading slump. Bear in mind though, January is probably the best reading month I've had in a very long time, and I probably read more books in January than I read in the entire second half of 2022. But we don't want to scare the progress too much with any added stress. So we're going to try to get to these books, but, you know, we're going to kind of mood read a little bit as well. So if there's anything that tickles my fancy during the month, it might end up in the wrap-up and might replace one of these. Anyway, we're going to be talking about the books. I'm reading quite a bit in honor of Black History Month, and I can't wait to tell you about the books. But, shameless plug, if you're not subscribed to this channel already, please hit that subscribe button. We are so close to 1,000 subscribers, and it would mean the world to me. Now that that's out of the way though, let's dive right in. Okay, so I do have quite a stack. I have 7 books that I want to read in February. I think all but one are written by Black authors in honor of Black History Month. And I think 2 of them are actually for book clubs. So we got some commitments, but that's okay. The first book I want to talk about was actually one of my anticipated releases for 2022 that I just never got around to reading. And I think it did, in fact, appear on a couple of TBRs last year as well. But that is The Great Mrs Elias by Barbara Trace Ribot. It is a historical fiction novel, and it's the novelization of an actual person's life, which are some of my favorite types of historical fiction to read. Like, I love when it's based on a real person. And so Mrs. Elias, Hannah Elias, was a sex worker and a landlord who during her lifetime became one of the wealthiest Black women in the world. So she has a really interesting sort of past. She becomes a landlord and just all of this intrigue to her. But then there's a murder that turns her life upside down, and her identity and her past is kind of revealed. I am very, very curious about this though. And as I said, it was an anticipated release of 2022, so I'm looking forward to finally getting a chance to read it. Okay, so the next book is one that I'm slightly ashamed to say I haven't read yet, because it definitely made its rounds on BookTube a few years ago, and just book, like, social media in general. And it's been sitting on my physical TBR for way too long. So we're talking Girl, Woman, Other by Bernardine Evaristo. This was a Booker Prize winner in 2019. And basically I've just heard wonderful things about it. It is a book that I've heard has so many really magnificent and vivid characters, and is a lot about intersectionality, and is just the story of this group of Black women in the UK. And so I really want to get to this. I think the last person I saw to read this was Rosie. And if I remember rightly, she gave it a rave. So I'm very excited to finally tackle this book. That's really all I know about it, but as I said, very, very much looking forward to reading it. The next 2 books are books by the same author, Ann Petrie. They featured prominently in my birthday book haul, which will have been the last video you saw from me. But basically, I read The Street by Ann Petrie, fell in love with it, was obsessed with it, and so when I saw other books of hers at the bookstore, they were insta-buys for me. I needed to get them. And so these, I will say, are probably my highest priority this month. And I know I shouldn't say that, given that I do have 2 book club books, but it's true. I am so stoked about these. So the first of the 2 books is Country Place by Ann Petrie, as I said, and this is the shorter of the 2. It's set in New England, I want to say Connecticut. Yes, Connecticut. And this young man returns from World War II to his parents and his lovely wife, and he starts to suspect that perhaps she was not faithful to him, and there is gossip and intrigue, and I am very curious to see how race plays a part in this book, or if it does. But from the street and also the next book that I'm going to talk about, there always seems to be some story, some connection to race that Ann Petrie talks about. But it's not super clear, having not read the book yet. But if it's anything like the gorgeous writing from the street, this should be an easy 5-star. And then the other book is The Narrows, with this stunning cover. I love the pastel covers. And this book is a little chunkier, and race definitely seems to play a big part of this story. So this young man, he's a Dartmouth graduate, he's a former athlete, I believe he's a veteran as well. He is wandering around minding his own business one day when he hears a woman being attacked and goes to rescue her and scare off the attacker. And it's only in the aftermath that the 2 of them realize he's black and she's white. And this chance encounter kind of throws a spanner in the works, because this seems to be a racially divided society that they're in, and in having a relationship of some sort, I don't know if it's platonic or romantic or whatever, they are kind of like crossing racial lines of this town and speaking to the social injustices of the time. So this one is a little more obvious on how race is going to play a role. And again, Ann Petrie did amazing things with the street, so I am very much looking forward to this book as well. The next book is one that I realized I did not include in my count. So we're up to 8 books for my February TBR, which is admittedly ambitious, but this is an audiobook and it's only 5 hours long, so I feel like it's doable. It is called Well-Read Black Girls by Glory Edom, and it is a collection of essays all about the importance of representation and seeing yourself in literature. And this book, I kid you not, I'm pulling up the list, has some heavy hitters contributing. So you have Jessam Ward of Sing Unburied Sing, Jacqueline Woodson of Another Brooklyn, and oh my god, what is the other book? It nearly made it onto this TBR. I am totally blanking. What is it? Red at the Bone. I could picture that cover with those gorgeous colors. Could not remember it. And then also Tayari Jones, who wrote An American Marriage, and is also on the cover of some of these books. Yeah, there's a little blurb on the back of this one, and I think she might have written, a foreword or something for the street, actually. Don't quote me on that, though. But this seems like such an important book to read, and so I was very appreciative of the fact that I could get it through the Libby app. So that's another one. Then we're getting to the book club books that I need to read this month, and the first of which is for Noelle's book club over at Noelle 7 Pages. I'll put the information on the live show in the description box for you, but I do know the live show is sometime in March. But we're going to be reading Highly Suspicious and Unfairly Cute by Talia Hibbert, which is YA romance, which is not something I normally read, but I was obsessed with the Brown Sister books, really, really enjoyed them. So when Noelle said, hey, you want to read this with me? I was like, duh. So we'll be giving this a read. From what I gather, it's a enemies to lover type situation, or frenemies to lover type situation. The two characters were friends at one point, but the young man decides he's too cool for school and too cool for the female lead in this book, because she's kind of one of those conspiracy theorist, like, believers type people. She's a little weird, a little eccentric, doesn't fit in with his vibe, but they're thrown together on this survival course, and you know, it's a romance, so things happen. Never read a young adult romance before. That is not typically my vibe. As I said, teenage me is something I like to forget, but Talia Hibbert does wonderful things with characters, and her characters are always so sweet. So I am looking forward to this one. And as I said, I'll put the information on Noelle's live show and her book club in the description box for anyone who is interested and wants to read along with us. And the last book, which is for yet another book club, is Persepolis by Marjane Satrapi. And this is for my workbook club, which is DE&I themed, and every 2 months we read a book and a group of us get together and talk about it. And this was the one we picked, and I'm very, very excited because it is autobiographical and it is a graphic nonfiction, I guess is the best way to describe it. And it is Marjane's story about growing up during the Islamic Revolution, and it covers her childhood and sort of young adulthood in both Iran and Austria. And it feels very timely given what's going on in Iran currently. So I'm very much looking forward to reading this. I feel like anyone and everyone who has read it has loved it. And I know that it was adapted into a film as well, and it was either Oscar nominated or Oscar winning. I don't remember, but that also received quite a bit of acclaim when it came out. So this should be an easier read for me to get through, not because of the subject matter, but because it is a graphic nonfiction. So that will be another book I read this month. Anywho, those are the books that I am trying to read in February. Fingers crossed I get through all of them. We'll see, I guess, when I do my February wrap up. But as I mentioned, there is a very heavy focus on books by Black authors telling Black stories in honor of Black History Month this month. I said month quite a bit there. I know. Anyway, I'm very excited about these books, and hopefully you're excited about a few of them as well. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please be sure to give it a thumbs up, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you next time.